to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain. On today's episode, we'll be discussing Double Indemnity. We saw this production at Nottingham Theatre Royal on the 13th of February 2026. Adapted for the stage by Tom Holloway and directed by Oscar Toman, Hollywood icon Misha Barton makes her UK stage debut in Double Indemnity, the gripping adaptation of one of the greatest crime novels of the 20th century, James M. Cain's thrillingly amoral masterpiece of murder, deceit and mystery. So Stephen, what's it all about?
Set in Los Angeles, 1930s, amidst the wreckage of the Great Depression, Double Indemnity follows insurance salesman Walter Huff, whose encounter with the married Phyllis leads to a dangerous conspiracy involving lust, greed and murder. Together they plot the perfect crime, murder the husband, cash in the policy and disappear into the Californian sunset.
But first, our post-show opinion!
A cue for the programmes was more thrilling.
Double Indemnity, double the boredom.
So, with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
Okay, so Double Indemnity, Richard. Let's try and set the scene on this one. This was a very static play. The set was just a static, purpose-built set.
Yep.
I really don't know how to describe it other than it just being very reduced in colour, very bleak, very
like
concrete-y-esque.
It's like a tunnel, really. Like an underground tunnel, almost.
Yes, but in like a square-ish model. How would you describe that?
Well,
a square, but with round
yeah.
bits around the side.
I feel like,
Tube.
for me, it felt like one of these big, like, almost Americanised air conditioning vents where you've got this massive
that's a good description
chamber,
of it, yes.
And it's just to let air through, really. It was not really... I think that's the best way to, like one of your huge, office blocks.
And what they did with it was make it so the front of the stage was very larger, and at the very back of the stage it narrowed down, so you got that depth of field to walk down and across. And they had cutouts at the back of the stage and also at the very top to allow light, and that was for the purpose of giving shadows to be cast against the stage right side of the wall. The whole wall was sort of rectangular, lots of blocks of rectangular shapes, so there were doors embedded both downstage right and left on either side, but you couldn't see there were doors because they were set within the walls, so it still remained the tube-like shaft of the piece. And all the set, whether it was a home or an office or a train station or a car or whatever, everything happened within that background. And that was clearly to enable them to use the shadow work, the lighting effects. Well, there wasn't much lighting effect, but use the lights in a way to cast the shadows up against that wall to enhance that film noir-esque theme that they had going on.
Yeah, it added to pull the colour out of the room as well, to make it look very black and white almost, and it was trying to create that feel.
And at the very back of this was what appeared to be like the back of the Hollywood sign, but I can't see how it looks like. I don't know,
it was basically as though you were looking at it
used
from behind.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it's like I can't see how it was ever used within the play. It never made anything other than it was just like a backdrop when it could have done without that.
Yeah, and I think for me
negatives.
as well, it was there all the time.
Yeah.
And it, like you say, it had no purpose because also it's on the top of the Hollywood Hills, like the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Nowhere near like any buildings or anything. So it was like you wouldn't even see it to that level. If you want to evoke that placement of it, it just felt pointless in my view.
Yeah, I think perhaps that was there to establish themselves as being in America in that Hollywood area sort of thing. But in no way was it like lit up or used, and you only got to see Holly. You never got to see the ward. You never got to see anything else.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out how,
Because for me, it almost evoked the point where you're going to have somebody hanging off it at some point, or it's there intentionally, and actually, it wasn't there intentionally. Other than like say, rather than putting it in America, it gave you that. It made you feel like it was in New York or Hollywood, or it gave that not New York, but it evoked that you were. It placed it in the film world almost.
Yeah.
But this is meant to be real life, not a film from Hollywood. I think that's it's, putting the Hollywood sign up just feels a bit weird.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, we can go into a little bit more detail about the whole direction and what was good and what wasn't a bit later on. But other than that, that was pretty much a simple bog standard set.
I suppose one thing we can mention is there were certain times where...
Well, you can mention what you want.
They pulled some of the walls away, so there was like breaks in the whole set. So yes, at first it was a whole run of fully like set in, not just doorways, but they used it almost as like cutaways to shine light through and stuff like that towards the second half of the production.
Whilst we're still talking about this set, let's discuss the things on stage, and I don't just mean the actors here. I just mean like the props, the set pieces, and then the costumes. It was a bare stage production in a sense where you just had small items get brought on. So there was at least one soft-backed chair, an office table, and a hard chair, and even just a drinks trolley. And I think those were the three main things you ever saw when it was going from the house to the office space. They did have, incidentally, talking about the set on the left hand side, stage left, it all had Venetian blinds.
Yes, it did.
Again, cast the shadow on the adjacent wall so you could see the whole shadow work play out there.
Yeah, it was to give natural light break up rather than it being from a light separately. They shone light through it to do it naturally rather than do it like in using gobos and projections and things. They used it to do that instead.
Yeah.
I suppose the other bits of set there was the car, but we'll talk about that later because I think that'll
that's a particular scene.
Yeah, and I suppose the other thing was the train carriage scene.
Yeah,
where that came out of the set almost. That became part of the design of it. I mean, the props weren't over the top. There wasn't really much.
No, just a normal briefcase, paperwork files,
writing desk,
clipboard and stuff. So, I mean, we don't really need to list it all, but it was pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the costumes, it was very much in keeping of the 1930s, 1940s-esque that they were going for. The high-waisted trousers for the guys, it's sort of like trilby hats and so on and so forth. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, there is. I mean, to me, I feel like they got the costumes for the male characters right, but I felt like the female characters weren't as iconic as they should have been.
Yeah,
there wasn't a level of polish for the lead characters to stand out on stage, because a lot of the 30s and 40s and 50s played with the fact that they're using black and white film, so they used a lot of patterns or things that stood out, and they made them look vibrant, or on film they look very, very specific that they are the lead characters. And I felt like some of it we got a bit of subdued, dumbed down level of
like Phyllis's main dress was very much a brown satin.
It almost blended into
caramel.
The background, whereas when you filmed film noir, it was very, even if Phyllis was wearing a black suit or a black like jacket, there'd be a white shirt that would enhance the collar level. I mean, it was like there was always a level of, there was intention on what they were wearing to make sure that it looked more, not necessarily black and white because you're sort of seeing it in real life, but there was more intention in the costume rather than just being a wraparound dress. And I felt like some of it we got a little bit too much of a ease of costume rather than actually it making more. I didn't feel like she was dressing for power,
Right.
when actually she was quite a powerful person and she was living in a world of expense because her husband at the time had got money, so she would be dressing quite powerfully to stand out. And I felt like there was some points where she just didn't stand out.
See, for me, that the dress that she did wore for the main of it. Oh, why can't I get my words out? I just remember it just being creased. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
why didn't
exactly.
they iron this thing?
I know, and I just think that straight away. Just I think for me, if you are this femme fatale, you're very in control of what you're doing, and your intention in what you wear is just as important as the things that you.
Yes, but I suppose like you won't blame the actor for the costume.
No, I wouldn't. But then some people can resist wearing certain things,
Okay.
and actors can do that because it's happened before where they've, they'll say, well, I want to wear that, and it's the payoff whether they actually do the production or not. So it can happen.
Yeah, I thought the costumes were relatively, on the whole, suitable for the period and were okay, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was on the stepdaughter. She had like a floral patterned dress. I did notice that one.
Yeah, and I think I remember us commenting that it just felt a bit more. I think what I'm saying is, it felt a bit more pedestrian about these performances when these are the key characters.
Yeah.
When you've got other characters that are wearing other things that almost blend in, it doesn't make your main characters stand out. And I'm not saying you need to wear, completely different things, but it's just that intention that makes you focus on those key people.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. The men, the men were wearing what you would wear in the 50s. There's no getting away from that because it's classic.
Well,
it's classic fashion, isn't it?
It's easy to style and dress men.
Yeah, exactly.
Than it is women.
It is, yeah.
If you're doing a period thing,
yeah.
Because a lot of men just wore suits because they were nice and smart.
I think as well for me, it was the whole look, including some of the wigs that were being used or things. They didn't feel very 50s at certain points where there was quite a lot of flat hair, and it was like this is a period where perms, not necessarily perms, but people were setting their hair in poodle styles and stuff like that. That I just felt like there wasn't the same elevation in that.
In the wigs,
and because that then becomes part of the costume and the look and the whole aesthetic of it all. And I think it just felt a bit like we're doing a modern take, but then we're actually sitting in the 50s. I just felt like, because even the secretary's got the same hair that she's got in real life, and which worked because her character worked, but then others didn't have the same volume. And I just feel like this was a period where hairspray was a big thing, and it was, but it's all that, I felt like we didn't get that level for everybody.
And also being a femme fatale, she, I suppose this harks back to what you said, there wasn't that much colour or vibrancy about her, that like femininity.
And this is what I mean. It's like that allure and that attraction to, like, even
allure or allure.
allure. You see, I think for me it was like, it's not necessary. What I'm getting at is it's not necessarily the you've got a bare all, but it was that, like, there was no intentional, like, slight flash of the skin that just brings the men in, and it's that like I don't know. I think it just there was.
Did we watch the same show?
Yeah, we did. We did. I just.
I think there was a little bit of that. She was acting it, but
was she?
There was a little bit of it going on.
I just feel that the things that you wear and the outlook then helps you actually portray that femme fatale character.
Okay.
So
we've talked about as much as we can on the costumes before boring our audience and ourselves. Let's talk about the direction and the writing here, and let's get just down to grips with the whole production. Overall, I felt there were some really good directorial pieces within this, but then there are certain things which just went a little bit awry. So what I liked about the direction first, let's start off with what I did like the shadow work, and the fact that they staged it slightly, so the main wall on the right, stage right, was the predominant one that they cast light upon, and shadows upon rather. I like the fact that they tried the best to utilise that as much as possible. So you had conversations going on downstage, but then it was also shadowed up high on that wall, on that side wall. I really like some of the interactions with the additional extra characters coming in. However, they were far and few, because there was a lot more awkward bits in this production when it comes to the direction. So even though I quite like the shadow work, there could have been a lot more of that. A lot more could have been done with playing around with the lighting. We had a lot of transitions where the lighting snapped to one scene. However, you still had someone walking off stage or closing the door or getting through the door, so it wasn't as snappy. It was off-putting, if anything. And I think there was only ever one scene that nailed it. The one scene that worked really well in terms of the transitions, where it was basically on come the lights and then action, and they hit the cues, was when it was Sophia Roberts, who played Lola, and Kieran Owens, who played Walter Huff. They both sat down on the bench to talk at the same time the light hit on from previous stage directly on cue. And that's the only sort of transition where it worked, because it was snappy. The rest of the times it was very much, sometimes like a light will come on and then you'd see them bench sit down or exit or step in. Do you know what I mean? It was sort of like it just really, really wrong. Yeah. Looked really off.
I think there was also too many moments that weren't great where they were stood in the dark, not shadows. There was a few moments where dialogue was being delivered and you couldn't see the person delivering it, and there was no reinforcement light just to make you focus on that person's actually putting something in the room. And it was like, yes, we know that it should be filmed noir, but you still need to like your actors that are performing, I think. And it doesn't need much. It was just, there was a few bits where it was like a phone call and the person would be on stage at the back of the stage delivering the line. We didn't see them. There was no point in being on stage. It was like they were just in the back, and and like you said about the furniture being moved and things like that, it was almost like they were darkening the stage to get stuff off, but still running with the production. And it was like, now what am I looking at? Because it was the direction of like moving that off at the wrong time, or has it been done at the wrong time? We couldn't tell that, like when, at what point it was intentional. And it was like, and you'd also got certain people delivering lines and then pushing things off, and it was like,
are they in the scene or not?
Oh yeah, and but then you'd also got cast walking around stage or side subcast that you felt like, are they in it? Are they part of it? What's going off? And I think the nice bits then it's almost disappeared because you'd got this happening as well. Or
you'll get a moment of good direction or a good piece of a scene, and then all of a sudden it's buggered up by the transition or the thing that's happening next or coming.
And talking about the supporting cast, the one thing that wound me up as well a little bit was a lot to be fair, was when you'd got these scenes that were meant to look like a street scene where you've got couples walking through and walking backwards and forwards. At the front of the stage, one thing we didn't mention is the set was probably set back a metre or so that there was a front exits in front of that tunnel. And sometimes this cast that were walking through playing these street scene pieces didn't go out of those bits. They went through the door that was actually the door for something else, and it started feeling like, are we in a room? Are we outside? Are we? I think there was certain bits that you, and also I was like, what are these needed for? Because it seems like we've never seen this cast, these supporting cast, do a lot else other than walk about on stage. There was no interaction with the main cast, and I couldn't work out what the purpose of having loads of extra cast members, apart from being ready to take on the role if somebody isn't available. But it just felt a bit pointless because I can see what the direction was trying to do, was trying to build it up to be a different type of scene or fill the space. But it just felt like such and such walks that way, then that way, then that way. And the same person comes through again, so they're up and down that street like Billio. And I just think, I don't, but they didn't seem to assist with some of the scene changes because you got main cast pushing set off. Yeah. Which was a bit like, why have this supporting cast if they're not involved in the pace of the scene changes? Or because they could have pushed things off like they were in the street scene, and they could have made it part of that movement, that flow through the space. And
I think it's because when they did move it, it was very much lingered within a scene that was like, it didn't feel like it was fast-paced, move it and then move on. There was very much like, oh, let's put the table on the chairs on the table, then move it, and then move this about. But
then I also found where we sat, we could see the side of the stage, and I felt like they couldn't push it through because there were certain times when it was like they were waiting for somebody to move off stage to get it off stage.
Yeah, well, I didn't know whether to talk about this in the technical thing or here, but we might as well talk about it now. On the stage right, that was like fixed to the theatre, so that was a strong side supporting wall, whereas stage left wall, that didn't meet the end of the stage for whatever reason, and so that whole wall was wobbling all over the place.
It's and like the crossroads.
And the left door into the wall, sometimes they couldn't open the door, it wouldn't shut properly. So they had issues there. Now, whether the actors couldn't get in and out, so they had to go round the outside, maybe that's why. However, on the right side, stage right, when they were taking the desk out, or the sofa or the chair, or whatever it was, out, you could see the technical crew just pull out lift up the black cloth from behind.
Like it was in the way.
And just for them to get it in and out of, and then you just saw the black cloth right at the top of the stage above the set perimeter, just moving back and forth and wobbling all the time. Like you can see people
it felt
behind.
Also slow to the point that our other cast waiting to come on, so they're all stood there in the way, and like they don't think, oh, I've got to move out of the way because this is coming straight off. It's like the everything just felt disjointed, and it just felt like, oh God, we've got to wait for another set piece to be brought on. We know what, and that just kills the zone of the production, and it, especially when it's meant to be a thriller. That's because you have to be fast paced with stuff like this, because you've got to keep attention spans. If you have something that just dips the attention, people switch off with this sort of production, because you've got to keep that level of intrigue going. Yeah. And if you drop it any more, because this was also part of the time when Walter Huff was narrating the next scene, and this was happening behind him, and it was like, I felt like I was in a shopping centre where they're moving, they're on a supermarket where they're pushing a trolley past the back, and he's trying to talk to everybody, and it doesn't fill you with intrigue, or I need to find out what's happening, and is there another subplot, or it just loses that zone.
Well, it loses focus. You get upstaged by the staging.
And a wobbly curtain, and a this, that, and the other.
And there was a couple of scenes that I will mention that, well, probably that I didn't feel was good and could have used a little bit more direction or movement in it. Let's say movement in it. There was a bit where Walter goes to Phyllis's house, and no, it's the other way around, because she's got the jacket. She had a jacket on.
Oh yeah,
that's it. She walked in, and she could have just sat down in that chair, but she never did. She took her jacket off for a little while, put it on the back, but she remained stood up instead of sitting down and creating a different level, different space. There was like stilted movement within all of it, so it seemed very late. I mean, I know it was like I know it's dialogue heavy, but you have to have a little bit of movement and a little bit. I think there was a lot of
like woodenness about and I know this whole film was quite intentional, being quite seducing. It's that atmosphere. It's that slow
broodingness.
That's the word. It's like broody. It's like that sort of thing. But
Moody and broody.
But you still need a level of pace to do that and action in physical features and face and reaction. And I felt like some of it was just flat. Yes. And I think that was the thing. It was like a lot of the movements replicated the same scenes, so that every scene felt very similar, which it just got a bit staid, where you've got people staying and planting in the same places, and it just felt...
It does, especially if you got the, like, a home visit where you've got someone seated or stood by a chair and someone stood up, and then you've got the office where someone's seated or stood up.
Yeah, exactly.
There's...
I mean, the other scene I'm going to come to is the scene, like we're saying, back at the house in Phyllis's in the Nerdinger's house.
Is that with the stepdaughter?
Yeah, with the stepdaughter playing with the ball of wool.
Yes.
I mean, so this scene was really weird to me, because you've got this femme fatale who's suddenly becoming a lady who plays with the ball of wool with a daughter, like, to wrap it up, to roll it up. Who
equally is older than should be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
But even if it's... I don't know even if that was in the book or... I mean, it certainly wasn't in the film, that section. I mean, it was playing cards or it was playing chess. I can't remember what game. It was some kind of game. It wasn't wool.
It just made no sense, because it was a bit like the intention that she actually knits. I thought, this lady ain't knitting anything for anybody.
No,
because there's a maid in the house. So if there's maids in the house,
yeah, she ain't got time to knit.
She doesn't live in a one up, two down in a back suburb street. They're living in a mansion. It's like,
yeah, they're very well off. She's not going to be doing that as a hobby.
No, it was really weird, because I don't know if they'd lent it, because it was a white ball of wool, so it looked like white things in a black film noir production. I don't know if that's why they did it.
The thing is, I can understand it if it was going to be some sort of like premonition for how one person dies.
Exactly.
With wool or yarn.
If it was in Texas in a farmhouse, I'd get it.
It was completely out of place. It was
just completely strange. It was like...
Yeah.
It actually... Because then that made it worse when the stepdaughter met her boyfriend, and it was like, he's an adult. So you were like, how old is this girl if they're playing with wool 1 minute, and the next minute she's meeting a boyfriend that's old enough and an adult?
Look,
it just felt...
This is Hollywood.
It blew
we
my
know
mind.
now what's going on.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows at the end of the day? It doesn't take the biscuit, but shall I tell you what does take the biscuit now? We're all fired up about
I've got a few more bits.
Okay, so why have a car with headlights that never get turned on? That whole scene there.
I mean, I was very concerned, because, I mean, Phyllis must have had a lot of carrots, because she managed to drive in the dark without turning a steering wheel.
Headlights on as well.
And have no headlights. But, unless she's got laser vision at night, that's like, that she's. Yeah. It was fascinating, because, unless she was driving on some railway tracks she just needed to put a foot down.
But this whole scene started bad, because it was like a quick snap into that scene, so the lights bang straight on the set, and then she's in the car, the lamps aren't even on, and we're waiting for her husband, Mr. Nerdlinger, to come out, who's on crutches, to get into the car. And that was like a long sort of walk slowly into it. So it sort of like bang straight into it, and then we just hit the brakes suddenly, and it's like, let's just slow that down. Instead of it just being bang, come like the stage lights straight down, and bang, the car lights come on, it should be like all actions go.
I know.
But no, it's like, should be straight in there.
I mean, what really got me as well is Phyllis would help her husband get in the car, because the intention is to do the dirty on him, and she just sort of stood there, let him fumble and fuss, and she'd shut the door for him if he's struggling, and
then forget that she needed. Well, the thing is, she needed him to go back inside so she could get Wolf.
She could open the door to let him get in the back.
Car. But if we already seen him struggle to get out, it should have been bang come the lights up. He's already in the car talking to her.
Yes.
And it's like, quick, get down, my husband's coming.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they miss such a trick. I mean, the other thing is, right, so I am fired up about this one. Not only do the lights not work on the car, but we also have passing lights of cars that they're driving past. So there was glimpses of light going past them, and there was the sound of turning in corners. And there was times when Mr. Nerdinger turned, nobody else, Phyllis didn't. She didn't even turn the wheel.
No.
And it was like, where's the reactions? Where's the, because yes, you're acting that you're driving, but you should still move. And I know it's about giving dialogue, but there was no reaction to moving on the road, and I think, what's the point?
Back in those days, they didn't have automatic steering.
You just drove along the curb, and the curb took you around corners.
You really had to yank your steering wheel to get it to move around the corner.
Yeah, and I just think there was no level of control or panic, and because it's actually quite a big thing to see a woman driving in the 30s and 40s. It was
Not
never
really.
Well, no. What I mean is, though, it's what I mean is by the emaciating thing of it's normally the man that drives, and it's normally this. You know what I mean? And she's driving, but there was no level of her driving or any of the.
Well, she drove because he couldn't, because of his foot was in plaster.
Well, did she drive? It's a wonder they both weren't in plaster, because there was no level of.
At the end of that, yes, no, that's true.
They'd have been in a wall if they didn't have any lights in the dark.
Yeah. So that was a really dumbass scene, that was. And I'm calling it that because it just was. There was no sparkle. There was no... I don't need, glitter or anything like that, mirror balls coming down for that particular scene. I just mean there was no spark to it. There was no... They didn't make that scene stand out like it was a really good, gripping, moving, fast-paced scene. Like the energy was there to do something. And give
especially when the build-up is to kill her husband in the car on the journey before they get to the train tracks. It's like there was no level of because we've seen car scenes done in Bonnie and Clyde, where they get shot and this, that, and the other, and their level of
what's
attention.
This, that, and the other?
Well, no, what
this, that, and the other.
Well, what I mean is the intention.
What else do they get?
When they're driving along or they're speeding along and then they drive down the country lane and they get shot. It's like you can tell there's a level of performance, and I just felt we got none of that. The only starring role in that car scene was the crutches that strangled the husband. Because that felt like the only bit that was action. It just.
Well, I think that was useful.
Yeah.
Yes. So that one was a really that needed work. That scene,
and it's a key scene.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the train or thereabouts, and that train was quite good the way they did that because, as you say, on the right hand side, that great big wall again, it moved back a bit.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It moved. It opened up 3 different compartments.
Yeah.
So it's as if it was like train windows.
Yeah.
And then they used it, and then
they pushed out of the main door.
They pushed something through the main door onto the stage. That was the rear end of a carriage, the smoking part where you just go outside.
Yeah, right at the end of an old train.
Yeah, just so they can have their
like
little chit chat sort of thing. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, because I think they had smoking sections within the trains themselves. So that worked really well. Yeah, but again, they didn't seem to do much of that. They had, were there some lanterns on there? I don't know.
No, there wasn't really anything. I think they sort of led into the just being dark and Yeah. I think the other thing was that because after he fell out of the carriage to imitate that he's died in that scene, I think the bit that that got me is when they got back in the car to go back home.
Yeah. Again, we know they didn't use the car thing this time round. They just stood up.
Yeah, that was even worse.
Yeah, they decided, well, we don't need to have that car thing with the headlights that don't work. We're not going to use that again. We're just going to stand far apart, but as if we are in the driving seat and the passenger seat in this car, and pretend there's a steering wheel in front of us.
Yeah, and not move our arms. But what was got me is that Phyllis was driving, and Walter was reacting to corners, but Phyllis didn't. So there was a few moments where Phyllis just holding the wheel, and Walter's like moving from side to side, and Phyllis just carried on facing forward, and it was like, this
do you know what? Maybe Phyllis knows the roads well, so she doesn't need to react because she's done it before.
I also feel that they missed the trick because it's in the film, and for me, it's this reaction of when they've dumped the body on the husband's body on the railway. They dump the body. They get back in the car because they dump the body on the railroad and go back to the car. The car doesn't start straight away. It takes about 6 attempts for that car to start. And there's just that one moment of look of panic on both of their eyes that they're going to be stuck here and there's a dead body on those tracks. Because this whole production is about the intrigue, killing somebody. Can they get away with it? Can they move on to better things? Can they get all this money out of all these people? And there's just that one moment that they might have been tripped up. Even on Phyllis's face is that level of like, oh my God, I might actually have got wrong. I might be stuck here and got done for this. Because she's got away with things in the past, but this one might actually trip her up.
Yeah, this is a consequence.
And they just threw that away. And I think that
it's important.
It's that little scene would have just helped solidify the fact that it is still difficult that what we're doing. Because at the moment, because after that scene happened, it was like, well, we've just dumped a body and got away with it. It just felt you need those little levels that create that sense.
I feel like this was a good adaptation of the book. It just needed, like you say, Richard, it needed that scene going in with a panic over the car, but it just needed certain elements tidied up a little bit, and to think about how to best present each scene in a different way to the previous scene, a little bit creatively.
I think the other thing is as well, from a writing and direction perspective, is we didn't know half of the time if they were on the phone or they were talking together. There was some scenes where it was really difficult to work out if it was a phone call or if it was
you said this to me at the time, and I said, no, they're in the office, and you thought they were on the phone because it was the secretary and Walter, wasn't it, at the time? Because they were both sort of facing outwards, but for me it was a case of she was reacting to him, but instead of them being face-to-face in the scene, we just got their facial reactions due to the lighting of it. Now, that's what I took from it, that they were in the present scene, but you thought they were on the phone.
I think it's not. I think it was more of that, but it was also things like he openly said, I'm going to call my secretary to tell her I'm going to the cinema tonight so she knows I'm going to the cinema. And then she drifted past, and it was like, I just felt like these scenes just didn't feel purposeful enough that, like, I can't detach from, is she in the room? Is she not in the room? Or we're not meant to meet, but we're stood next to each other. And it was like, there was no zoning of, I just felt a little bit like it felt washy. I just felt like there were certain times where it just felt a bit like the car scene. You almost couldn't work out the level of, like, we're not meant to do this, this and this, but we're still, like, in the same space. And I found that strange.
So really what you're saying is we need scenes that define where they are more so within the script.
Yeah, and I feel a little bit like you said, where they're standing next to each other. If they'd have just stood separate or not, like, shoulder to shoulder, or
they did. But they were separate on that one.
What I mean is,
unless
it was
a
bit
different
like
scene you were talking about.
But there was more than that scene. I think there was just some scenes where I felt like, do we just need to see her right at the back of stage, lit, as a difference between the two? And it was like, but then I just felt I just felt like it wasn't definite enough to know that this is a separate conversation, or we're doing it through a different medium almost, and I think that's all I meant.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for the writing part, the dialogue was okay and of the time. I think everything was pretty much fine. I think it just needs a little bit more tightening up and just proper showcasing. Mind you, it should really be down to the director get across where you are in that set, really, because the writer just says where they are. But I think probably to look at again how to make it a little bit more clearer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something. I don't know. Like, because you've got a lot of repeated scenes. House, office, 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 house, house, office.
Yeah, it is very light.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, they could have used the gantry. They could have actually put something on the top as walkways.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we never got anybody acting on
levels.
height.
No, there was no levels.
You know, they had the how it was set. They had the depth, but they never had the height really to get shadows up on the top of the stage as well. So you got conversations in passing.
Yeah, exactly.
Of conversation, you know, that probably could have helped a little bit more to give it extra.
I just think it needed more depth putting into it, and I think this is the issue for me. It was like
more depth of what?
I think for me it's the depth of. For example, the film style of it. Walter's already dying when he first starts recording what's happened in the production. The whole point of him when he starts is he's got a bloodshot, a gunshot that gets worse throughout the production. As he can't really do it because he's switching forward and back in this, but I feel like he was almost narrating to us.
Well, it was a confessional,
but it didn't feel like a confessional at certain points. It felt more like he's telling us, rather than the confessional side of. That's what I'm getting at. It was like, and then with. You know, there was some good scenes. I mean, the other bit that I was going to say is the scene in the second half where they're talking about the 15 miles an hour and all the three guys that are talking. That was actually really well paced and really well.
Yeah, we're trying to break it all down and work
that
out
worked
how
really well. But I felt like we'd waited
wrong.
For that. But all this bit leading up to
that
it
was the opening of the second act. That was,
and it felt like we didn't need half for the first half because that had more power in it than the rest almost. And I felt if they'd applied that sort of style to the rest, they might have.
Yeah, the first half was basically hatching the plan and making the plan work and seeing it through, and then the second act was basically aftermath. Yeah. Now they've done it. What's the consequences of that?
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, you're right. That scene was another one that was quite good.
Yeah, it was.
It was really, really good.
Within all this, there was the odd thing that was solid, and it worked really well. And I think if they'd have applied that to the rest, it might have had more power.
Yeah, because it had a lot more energy.
I think that's what I mean by depth, because that felt more. There was more strength in that part of it.
Okay, moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama. So we've just been talking about the three guys at the office in the previous section, which we want to then talk about casting decisions.
We really do. Oh, well, I do.
So let's just follow our thread and talk about that young lad.
Joseph Langdon.
Yes, playing multiple parts.
Which I thought was a very big misstep, because what got me a little bit in this scene is, in this production, was the decision to cast three almost iconic roles for one person. And I think what wound me up was the fact that, so you'd got Joseph Langdon playing the security guard that interacts all the way through with Walter. Because the whole point of this production is Walter's going in and out of that office when he shouldn't be, to get these documents signed or hide things or do this, that and the other. He's always telling a few porky pies to the security guard.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward to the scene that I really liked in the second half, where Joseph Langdon's now the senior manager and the boss of the whole building. So you've gone from security guard to senior manager, and I was like, what the hell? Like, these are two roles that are like in the same building.
Yeah, but also he was the one that was he dating Lola?
He was the boyfriend of the...
So through Lola got him the job at the firm, but was that job being the security guard?
No.
So that was a different person again.
Nino's the security guard. No, Nino's the guy the boyfriend that also then goes out with Phyllis. At the end, we find out that they're having an affair.
Right.
So, and this is why it's like one role that actually should not all mix.
Yeah,
because
that
it really
got
creates.
really confusing.
It's hard to read every character then because you've got the same person playing all three characters.
Yeah.
And it's really like from the security guard to the senior manager of the building to then this almost dim-witted fit guy that goes out with the stepdaughter. It was such a weird juxtaposition compared to the fact that you've got the other characters only playing one person.
Yeah.
And I felt, and also to have all these other characters on stage wandering around the stage.
Yeah, and they could have easily had that one.
Nino's hardly seen.
Yeah.
He's seen for like almost 2 occasions.
Yeah.
Properly. But it was really weird because Nino and then the senior manager looked no different. You were like,
well,
what
exactly.
the hell?
I was really confused with the whole the boyfriend being the security guard. I thought that, but then obviously I've just questioned it if it was different. But then him being suddenly the boss, I thought, how does that work? Because it was so confusing.
And it made it like, so the guy he's talking to every night when he goes in the office to blag his way in to hide stuff is actually now the senior manager of the... It just felt like, especially when you've got Walter's boss, who was Martin Marquez as Keys, was very strong as a typical American boss.
But he looked like the boss anyway.
But then you find out he's got another boss, but this boss turns out to be the security guard and
who's like a tiny little boy.
And it was such a weird...
Yeah,
it was a very weird decision.
Doesn't work at all.
It really, and I think this what really got me about, was it direction, was it casting, was it? It was like, why would you write that part into one?
It wouldn't be the writing; it would be the direction of the casting decision to have. Let's make all the extras play all the roles, but that person can do the majority of them unless he's sick.
Whereas I can see, it's when you see Estelle Cousins' role play Nettie, the waitress, and the usher, because that works, because you don't really... The usher doesn't get in the way of her receptionist role.
Yes.
Because she's wearing a pillbox hat, she's wearing... she's
slightly the same sort of functioning role.
Yeah, exactly. And the waitress the same. It doesn't really matter to the plot. Because it's a side role.
Yeah.
When it's a key role, it really winds me up. It's like I've seen a production years ago, I'll never forget it, Brastoff, where one of the mothers became the nurse in the hospital scene. So you've got one of the key mothers that's part of the main scene. Next minute she's wearing a nurse's outfit, treating like the other husband, and it was like, but you're not a nurse. in your outside role, you weren't a nurse, and it was like that's just changes the narrative completely. And I think especially when, I
mean, there's a certain amount of belief there, but I think when it comes to the young guy being the boss as well as being the young man and the boyfriend and the security guard all being within that same place, that's when it gets confusing. You don't know which character that person is portraying.
None of the other leading roles were playing any other leading roles. And I think that's when it gets annoying. It's like that role still matters because it's actually storyline plot, and all of his interactions are part of the.
Well, say for example, if he was playing the security guard at that firm, you'd have to use one of the other people to be the boss within that firm as well.
Exactly, you just wouldn't put them together, and
not in that same building.
No. Especially when,
because as Nettie as being like the usher and the waitress, she's not going to be the waitress in the theatre with the usher, or she's not going to be the usher as a receptionist, is she?
It's never going to cross.
Those places are never in the same place.
No, exactly.
You wouldn't see Nettie be the same person as the receptionist.
No.
A secretary there.
No.
And then also be like the tea lady or someone to fix the gutter in or whatever else.
No.
Like, what's Nettie doing?
Exactly. And I think that's when it becomes really annoying, because then it changes your mind when you're watching it. You're like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Has he suddenly had a promotion? Because and this what was presented as quite a bit of a jock a man that you shouldn't mess about with because he's when the stepdaughter's going out with somebody, don't go out with Nino because he's this bit of a Jack the Lad. When you meet Nino, he's quite almost simple talking because there was that whole scene in the first half where he was quite like simple and he almost grunted a few times and said a few words. Then to suddenly be ordering everybody around in the second half as the boss, it was like my mind is going. What's happening?
Yeah, did he get a promotion? Have we had a lot of?
I feel like if you hadn't watched the film or read the book, you wouldn't know because you would go away going.
To be fair, I still don't know.
It's just,
I think this is the first time we've actually talked about casting decisions.
Yeah, it is really,
isn't it? Really?
But also decisions of the set of people in playing roles. I think.
No, it's all right. You cut me up. If you want, can't. I need to put my teeth in, don't I?
We're talking about the acting, aren't we, and the casting and the.
Yeah. I was just in terms of the actors playing the role. I think there was quite strong performances with a few of them.
Yeah, there were.
But I think it's hard to tell due to the direction of this piece. I think it falls heavily on the direction. There could have been a little bit more characterisation from Misha Barton as a femme fatale.
Totally agree.
I feel she could have at least used her powers to move around the scenes a bit more than be static and probably be a bit more flirtatious or poised.
I felt there wasn't as much dominance as and control of the almost the puppet master as she was.
She's very pleasant to look at. She's really she's nice and she does. It's like they build her out to be this star in the show, but she does slightly fade slightly. Yeah. And I think the only reason that she's supposed to be prominent is because she's a femme fatale, but we don't really get much of that feminine prowess and that controlling manipulation behind everything.
I was trying to work out whether she took the direction literally.
Yes.
As in, she's just doing as she's told almost, but then I also couldn't work out whether she'd not done enough research into this sort of performance style where it's I think it's hard to tell to distinguish really.
And to be fair, this is a UK first stage debut, so I don't know what that necessarily means.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
A stage is a stage and an audience is an audience.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in a play.
Yeah,
you portraying a character, and I just felt there were certain points where there's no get up and go.
There's like more get up and go from the audience.
Yeah,
members.
I thought. There was a few that didn't come back in the interval. I think there was a few. For me, it's about a look and kill in this sort of production, where it's like a lot can be done with body language, and it's not just about the words you deliver. It's not just a park and bark, stand there, deliver. You can still put some colour in the performance of it.
Oh yeah,
and I think what we were missing was that glint and that glimmer of that little glitter in the eye of like, actually, there's more to me than just the wife of a rich man. There's more to. I've played this game many times, and this is just another.
Exactly.
And I think that's what I was missing. That's what I was missing.
That's exactly what. Yeah, I think as well. I do feel though that Estelle Cousins playing Nettie in The Waitress and the Usher. She was, I wouldn't say she upstaged Misha, but she did sort of make the stage her own every time she was on it.
Yes.
There was power there. In every role, you could see different levels in her characterizations with that as well. I would actually also say that there was a lot of nervousness going on, and we saw it on the Friday, and it's been running for a couple of days. Because it's already had a week somewhere else, in Evesham, I think it was. Yeah. Eversham, I think. However, they were still stumbling over the lines.
There was.
I don't think I should name and shame, but there was a lot of that. Fumbling about what's my next line.
There was a lot of pauses and a lot of re-saying a line, and the only way I can describe it is they're like just about got it wrong, and then they remembered it and said it. Yeah. It was like they would like it was on the tip of their tongue, and then they got back on it, and it was just like, and it was obvious. It wasn't just like they I felt like they were fluffing through a few lines.
If you want examples of what we mean, just listen to our podcast.
When our brains are talking, but we're not reading a script. We're not writing anything down either. But I think there was just you could audibly,
like you just done
like that. You could just tell that there was a moment of their brains were going and they were thinking, and I almost felt like was somebody else helping each other, like there was somebody like jumping with a line because they weren't going to get there, or I don't know. I could tell that there was hesitance a lot of the time, and that doesn't help a performance either.
No, I do feel with it being like dialogue heavy and limited movements as such, they should be more focused on the delivery of it. So that's probably where they were possibly over analysing things, or I don't really know. I'm just making.
I think as well,
making it up as I go along. Really,
I've not really mentioned this in direction, but something else that I probably now we're talking about it, I noticed was because there was no colour in some of the delivery of some of these monologues or the speeches that they were giving. That doesn't help an actor intentionally know what's next or what's part of their performance, because if it's not broken up into little bits where they do a movement or a something that it keeps them on track, it then becomes like a delivered lines and not a performance almost sometimes. I think Walter had a lot of that where he did have intentional things to do while he was delivering quite a lot of words, whereas some of the others didn't necessarily have that, and I think that or they might have done, they just didn't do it because they were more bothered about the words. It could have been a bit of both.
It was a weird one, and I kind of feel like sometimes you can get really good amateur productions, and I just feel like this was one of those where it was like a mediocre amateur production on a big scale.
If you'd have took that back wall out and just put a black stage on, you would have thought that it was, especially with wobbly set and things that start not going right,
it
and
just
set
went
changes
from bad
seem
to worse, to be honest.
This is a Friday night at like mid.
Yes.
It's not the Tuesday. I could have.
If sometimes it was the first week like
on a Tuesday
or Wednesday, or previews or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fix that, get that right, tighten up that.
But by a Friday, you expect it to be at a level,
especially in the second week somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
On a tour. Yeah. It was bordering on those lines.
I think it was frustrating for me because it's a production that it could be so much stronger as a film noir piece. It would work if you nailed all the things we're like talking about. It would read really well as a piece of theatre, because it
I was going to say it was a film noir piece.
What I mean is if
it was done.
I think what I mean is if they tighten a lot of it.
So how about if they did the makeup in like a black and white shade and all the costumes were black and white? So we were watching like a black and white film, but like a black and white stage show.
To me, I think that would have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot of work to do, because there is other productions that have done that, and it looks aesthetically amazing. And then it starts looking really like something special. But I think you've really got to like get it right to do something like that, because it doesn't matter what the aesthetics look like if you haven't got the rest down. Anything
else you want to say on this?
I don't think so. I suppose Joseph Langdon did a great job in the scenes he was in as the manager and things like that. It's not what we talked about with the casting. He played his roles well. I think it just it was just the decision to put three key roles together, which was the wrong decision in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean Martin Marquez, he was really good as Keys. He was a strong character throughout, good characterization,
and I think Kieran Owens was as well as Walter. He engaged. He pulled you through it. There was just a lot of other things, even in the tech that we'll talk about next, that I think will point out what didn't help that either. So that that was the.
But I do feel that the strong one was also Oliver Ryan in there as the husband.
Yeah.
Never missed a beat, never dropped a line, never did anything wrong. A bit like Estelle and Sophia.
Yeah, exactly.
They were always spot on. Again, so you'd say secondary characters, I suppose. Secondary characters, so it wasn't all on them.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the tech is this?
Give them some credit. They did well with the staging and the lighting, and playing with the shadows and creating those shadows. So I do feel that more could have been done, particularly, like I've said before, the lamps on the cars, more lanterns on the train, and they could have actually had steam from the train, pumping out.
Exactly, it didn't need much. Just something to evoke the station.
Just imagine that with the lighting and the casting of the shadows. That would have worked a damn sight more.
And I think just some reinforcement of light on some of the cast members when they're delivering lines. I felt like some of them were talking in the dark. And that isn't shadow work, that's talking in the dark. There were some bits that was just... It just felt lacking in to just drive that narrative to where it needed to be. And I sort of... Some points where I felt like people walking into spotlights. Few moments with Walter, we're talking about lighting here, where he starts doing his dialogue for his bit to the audience in the dark, and he's having to walk into the light to be seen. But the first sort of 3 or 4 lines, he's done them in the dark, and it loses so much by just that. I don't think it was intentional in the sense of to create that mood. He just wasn't lit. I felt like there was just some of those scenes that were just lost.
Yeah, there's a way of lighting someone with making them look like they're not lit.
Exactly.
Sort of walking in as well.
Yeah, and I think that was...
Even if it's like overhead or a top angle.
Because I think as well, with this style of production, people are all lit on stage to a point, and then you have beams of like wax of shadows or this, that and the other. Sometimes where it was just like we were just relying on... Yes, we've got this light coming through the break of the shutters on the side and the this, that and the other. They were forgetting the cast as well. They were like, oh, well, let's cast a really good shadow. Yeah, but we still need to make sure that everybody's got some form of reinforcement light on them.
I think the whole element was about creating a shadow on that main wall and forgetting that you can create shadow from above and below. Yeah. And around at the time,
I mean, how many times?
So many different things you can do.
How many times? There wasn't any. How many times did we see that door enter and there was a beam of light come through when the door opens? You know what I mean?
There wasn't anything through there, but it was more from the top.
But what I mean is that would have also created some...
From the distance at the back.
It creates that, like, from a side, if you've got a door opening and there's a beam of light on the floor of, like...
Well, you'd have that character stood in the doorway, shadowed up through the top of the stage, so it's all on the floor.
Exactly, and this is I think that's what it was missing for me. There was, like, those bits that aren't difficult.
No, they could have done damn sight more.
And it would have evoked that level of intrigue, or that door's got an intention.
And thriller-esque. Suspense and mystery, and
it's like there was one scene not really talked about in the direction, but in the film there's a scene where Phyllis is hiding behind a door listening to a conversation, and if you'd have got those moments with the doors opening and the intrigue and the thriller, you could have done something in a shadow that she would have been there, and even though that conversation she shouldn't have heard, you could have just seen her on stage, just in the background, knowing she's there. Just the physical presence of somebody being on stage is powerful. Of and I just felt like they threw some of that away that could have worked so well. So we move on to the biggest bugbear of this production, which was microphones not working.
Oh, I thought you was going to go on to a different topic. Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah,
because I get so
we've had
frustrated.
A run of them, haven't we?
We've seen quite a lot of productions where I'm getting fed up, and this is no big attack on sort of sound designers or sound technicians, but get your microphones right. If there's a delay, build that into your script. Make sure you read script so you know you need to give a pause. You need to build it up so that when those lines are delivered, we hear them. Because the amount of times those mics didn't kick in when they should have done, we lost lots of dialogue.
Yes.
And we lost... And there was some moments where one person was talking on a mic, the other person was talking on stage. And if it wasn't for us sitting where we were, we wouldn't have heard anything.
No, it felt in this particular one where the main hold on, let me just get the it felt like whenever Walter Huff was approaching Phyllis to kiss her and speak or say something close or whisper to her, like her mic was picking up his voice and projecting it on her
and then his mic wasn't working at one point, or her didn't work at one point. But
it was whenever them pair got together, I noticed that something was like some of his words were like booming out of like a different speaker.
And then
like,
when he was narrating,
she's coming out of the right and he's coming out of the left.
And then he'd turn to narrate to the audience, and halfway through his mic had come on.
Yeah.
And you'd like, well, no, it's all loud now, all of a sudden. And it's like, what? You really lost focus because it was kept going in and out like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was so frustrating because
do it
without
go up and down.
Well, you know. In my world.
Like a jack in the box.
Yeah, exactly. But I think don't have mics if you're gonna keep switching them on and off and do this weird thing with them, because it just cut through the whole point of the production sometimes. It did.
It was so off-putting.
It's just so annoying.
But again, it made them look amateurish.
It did. I was like, I felt like the sound tech had fell asleep.
Well,
at some points because they'd not pressed the go at the right time, and they'd not say, because there was some times where it's like that matters. It really matters with this sort of thing, And don't.
Well, it should be
I don't want to walk out.
It matters. They should be doing it anyway.
I don't want to walk out the production and somebody tell me, "Oh, we're really sorry the mics didn't work. We forgot to press them at the right time." You've got a script. You should be practicing and practice. I've done it enough times. You practice with the audio cast and pay attention to what they're doing, and you mark it so you know what's happening at what point. And we've seen, like you say, quite a few productions recently where I feel like it's lackluster.
Do you get the feeling that the people who are on the sound mics sorting them out, getting ready to press on and off, that they're on the phones?
I do.
Like ADHD. They got drifted off and just.
I do. I just feel like there's a lack of attention.
Yeah, they can't keep
to the technical ability. And I feel really sad because that is just as important.
But it puts the actors off. You can see, especially in this one, it puts some of them off. Like this, like, oh god.
And no wonder they got knocked with their script if they can't. If 1 minute they're hearing themselves, the next minute they're not, and it's like, what's going on?
You genuinely got the impression that they were a bit fed up already.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they probably had a whole week of this, things not being right or not going right.
And I know
wobbly doors, dodgy mics and stuff. It's like the play that goes
wrong. And we're not
wrong.
watching a preview. I can't discredit. Not discredit. I can't. I don't really forgive when things stop going wrong like this. When it's not the previews. You've got time to work this out. You've got time to rehearse this. But that's my. I think it just frustrates me when that is an important part of something that's you've got to be engaged with, and it needs to throw it at you. I mean, I like some of the swelling sounds that they used and some of the music-y bits that they used, but sometimes I felt like they were a bit too loud compared to the rest of it, because when the mics don't work and this sound comes in really loud, everything starts feeling a bit like, come on, it could be better.
The thing is that those kind of things that I didn't particularly notice because there was so many other things wrong, that was just like really petty things to pick up on. At this stage, it was more sort your flats out, make them not wobble, sort the doors out so they don't get stuck, get the mics working,
exactly,
and get a little bit more life and remember your bloody lines.
But not much then for this production. Not just a few bits to deal with.
No.
I think I'm sensing a general consensus here.
And now it's time for
Rewind Rewatch.
I mean, for me, the only thing I'd probably pick out at this point in time is the scene after the interval where they're actually trying to unravel everything, because that's the only thing that had actually pace and performance in it for me.
It starts with Keyes trying to unravel, as you say, untangle the mystery as to if he's had his leg in plaster, why did he not get insurance or claim on his insurance for that? And that sparks the whole unravelling of everything.
And also, how did he die at 15 mile an hour of falling off a train?
Exactly,
that's the
he's
key
got the
point.
Of this. So that was more interesting, a bit like The Verdict when we went to see that. It was all in the second half where everything starts to be examined. So, that's it for me as well, to be honest. Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
Call this a show?
Okay, before we call this a show, I just want to say, what is it? We're going to Nottingham Theatre. We've been there so many times now that I don't expect them to know us or who we are, but just because we're a couple of guys going there, that they ask us, do we know where we're going? Do we know why we're here?
Yeah.
And then get told, oh, Sarah Pascoe's round the corner.
Next door.
Are we sure we're not going for that? It's like, no, we know we're not going for that. We've got the tickets here for double. We've got the programme. We bought Double Indemnity, the programme. No, we're not going to see Sarah Pascoe next door.
I'm just going to check your tickets properly to make sure you're in the right place. And I had to hold my nerve when that was said to me because I was
times.
like...
Security coming in.
I'm not being funny. Don't patronise me because I understand what a theatre is, and I understand who Sarah Pascoe is. I just bought tickets for Double Indemnity. I like both, I like both theatres, and I could have quite happily seen Sarah Pascoe, but I don't need it thrown in my face that I'm in the wrong place and I'm in the wrong venue and I'm going to the right place. Do I know where I am? Yeah, well, I think I do. I mean, unless I need, the psychotic assessment, but I think I know.
You do, but that's something different. I mean, by all means, be helpful, but be helpful when you're asked for help.
It was a little bit thrust in my face, and I was.
Yeah, but I hate it when I go shopping, and then as soon as you walk through the door, can I help you with anything? Do you need anything? It's like, I'm just here to browse. Get out of my face.
I think it wasn't necessarily it was that, but it also felt a bit more.
I didn't
aggressive.
Say it was just that. I'm just saying that I don't like being like overwhelmed.
Exactly, but it was actually more aggressive than. Can I help you?
Well, it was a bit guard,
like, what?
6 foot, 7 foot dude coming out to us. Not even can I check your pockets or your bags.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you here for?
I mean, I could have had any items of peanuts and sweets in my bags, to get in the room, but it was just it was the implication. It just felt very hostile, and I just didn't like it. Really, it was don't. I know from their perspective, they'll probably have a lot of people that come in the wrong venue because they've come through the wrong door, but don't go at me like that. It was a little bit too much. Yeah.
But again, they're probably fed up with people. But what is it with people that they can't read where they're going?
Exactly, I know.
But then, if Nottingham, who's printed the tickets and created the tickets, have done their job right, they should say where their thing is being held.
Which it does do.
If Sarah Pascoe is at the concert hall, it should say concert hall. Yeah, exactly. And if people can't read it, then that's down on them.
But all you do is walk through and get straight through. It's not.
Well, you're in the concert hall. You're not in the Theatre Royal.
And I'll be really honest. Double Indemnity didn't sell very well, so there was hardly anybody around anyway. So it didn't really matter.
Well, a lot of people left at the interval, so they probably went to Sarah Pascoe.
Exactly.
We weren't sure if it was going to star Sarah Pascoe or not. To be fair,
we were waiting for the little don't take any pictures sign to say Sarah Pascoe isn't in this production. She's next door. We're really waiting for those sort of things.
Take pictures over there with her.
I know.
But anyway, that's just by the by. Summing up this Double Indemnity, I was really looking forward to coming to see this because I really like the not Oscar Wilde, the Billy Wilder film. But unfortunately for me, it just didn't live up to the hype of it. It's a good one to do, but only people of a certain not persuasion, but certain people who are fans of film noir, are fans of that era. You're talking more film buffs than you are theatre goers, I suppose.
Yeah,
because it's based on the book, which then became a hit film. It never became like a stage hit stage show, I should say. So already you're sort of up against it. So you really need to be on the ball with this to get everything right. And I don't think it does in any way. It's a very mediocre production. And if it wasn't for that scene, I'd probably rewind and watch nothing.
Exactly. I'd
rewind it and erase it.
It's a niche world that I think they needed to reflect on what they've put together.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some good acting in this. It was well cast. I can't say it wasn't cast well. It just needed a lot more work on it. In all departments.
Exactly.
I feel. Go on.
I don't know what more to say.
Well, you have your version of what you think. You sum up for you. I've just summed up for me. This is how this works, Richard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Oh, well, I'll leave it there then.
No, I just feel like the stagecraft needed more work. The performance style needed more work. You know, if you're going to root it in this type of production, you've got to do a lot more than I felt was done with this, because the overall production's got promise. The overall style of it would work, but you've got to punch in. You've got to almost feel punched in the face with this sort of production, and I feel like
we were.
Well, with not what we expected. I just think it's not got that lingering thriller style production that would live up to some of the things that are out now on TV and things like that, and they could get it to that level. It's not far off. They just needed to, they need to reflect on it and be honest about the fact that it needed more work. And I feel like they've run this before they've even set how it works. They're not confident on the piece before they've put it out to the wider world, and that's very dangerous when it comes to getting a name for yourself for doing this type of production. Because what's the point of doing the next one if this one doesn't, hit the spot? So that's my view.
So let's just talk about the ending, because I struggled here to try and work out or remember what happened, because the whole play was quite forgettable.
It was.
It starts off being like following the indemnity policy. And
exactly.
Like that's the MacGuffin you're following. However, it then doesn't necessarily do that. And then by the end, they get shot. And I completely forgot. I completely forgot. And this is where the weird thing was. It was so awkward. Go on.
I just think they rushed to end it, where they tied it all up, and it was like, we've got to do this whole like ending scene.
Yeah.
And Walter and Phyllis go on a cruise, he goes to find her on a cruise ship or a holiday resort or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's a shooting scene where you see all the sort of lead characters that are involved in the twists and turns, and then he gets shot, and then end scene. But it really ended that stupidly, that we heard something on stage, and it's the same thing that had happened in an amateur production. Yeah. And I've heard it before, where people don't know when the end of a production is.
So let's start them
People
off.
on stage were clapping, so we knew it was the end of the production.
Yeah, I thought it was the backstage crew people, but it was probably the actors.
And it was like...
Yeah, this like...
Wow.
So that's not in the audience.
No, because there's not many of us here.
We had this with another player. I can't remember what it was. It was really awkward. Like, I wanted to clap, but I didn't, because I wasn't sure. Because sometimes some plays get... the false ending. You think it's the ending, and then it has another scene. Like Mary Whitehouse was one specifically, where I thought it ended, and then she came out of the old people's home.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I didn't know if it was going to have another scene or what. But then, they started clapping from the back. So, it's the end then. So then even the actors got a bit awkward.
And I think what was annoying is I felt like the ending was that flat that you didn't know it was the end.
Yes.
It was just so throwaway.
Yeah.
That was like, what the heck? Whoa. Just, and the fact we've got to clap in the audience, yet again.
And I think that will be another thing that the writer would need to sort of concentrate on as well. Having a good polished ending, I really want to hit hard on, because you can get away with fumbling around for the first couple of scenes to get into it, because the audience will forgive that.
Yeah.
They won't forgive a really cack ending.
Yeah,
it's like, what the hell was that?
It was. And it was no like sharp blackout or punch or this, that, the other. It was like there was no... It just felt flat. And it was like, really?
Yeah.
Because actually, the cast walking back out is enough to know it's the end. To do a bow scene or this, that, and the other. But they're just like...
Especially if you're walking out holding hands and you know that they're not in character, are they? Yeah.
But I felt like they'd not even worked on the ending.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, God, we've got to rush to do it. And this is how we're going to do it. And, well, if that was what they were aiming to do.
Well, the whole thing, it makes the audience feel awkward because they feel, oh, bad, I didn't
Well, you're forced to clap. I hate being forced to clap.
Yeah, they should earn that applause through merit.
Yeah.
And when you're just making the audience feel like, is this it? What's going on next? You've confused everyone. Well, not necessarily confused with the plot, but just how they've done it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was the ending. It was very... I'd say forgetful until you reminded me of it. Yeah. But then I reminded you of the clapping, which you forgot. Because it was just all
I was like, oh,
forgettable.
Dates.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, on to the next one.
Yes.
And we'll have more fun with that one. Scores then, please, Richard, for Double Indemnity. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a slick theatrical noir with a perfect getaway, and 1 being a production in need of its own insurance policy. What's it going to be?
I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. Because I just think all the things we've talked about in the episode sum up what could make this, top dollar.
And I'm going to give this a 4.
So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
For me, it's tumbleweed. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's definitely tumbleweed for me.
I am actually going to give this a pleasant applause.
So there we are. That's our discussion of Double Indemnity. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
and opinions
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage Downstage. We saw this production at Nottingham.
Why does my laptop stop whirring every time we go hit record? It was fine a minute ago.
It just needs power. I'll just drink my tea.
Can't you just drink it normally? You sound like a bloody Hoover.
That isn't a word.
Well, it is, but it's not the way you say it.
There's no you in icon.
There's always a me in an icon. What are you on about? I am one.
You're on one.
Not you. Right, go. Hollywood icon.
James M. Cain's thrillingly amoral. James M. Cain's. That's hard work.
Well, you're making it hard work.
James M. Cain's thrillingly immoral masterpiece of amoral. James M. Cain's thrillingly amoral. It's because I'm trying to shove the word in. I'm thinking about it.
Pardon? I mean, basic just being able to read will be fine. You don't have to do extra work.
To read. James M. Cain's thrillingly amoral masterpiece of a murder.
No, not of a murder.
Of murder.
Of murder, deceit, and mystery. Together they plot the perfect crime: murder the husband, cash in the policy, and disappear into the bollocks.
And they're doing what?
I was going to get that all in one then.
Where were they disappearing into?
And disappear into the Californian sunset. I couldn't get my teeth around it.
No. Well, it says California bollocks.
Californian bollocks. And disappear into the Californian Somerset. And disappear... Oh no, I can't do the accent.
Some are not. Somerset and some are not.
Incidentally, on-stage understudies. When do you have off-stage understudies?
And this is what I couldn't understand.
Just put understudies. You don't have to say on stage understudies, otherwise they'll be off stage.
Yeah, but they were just walking across stage all the time. That's what I meant. It's like we've got twice as many cast to just wander.
If not entertaining.
Stay tuned as we think. Stay tuned.
You're not doing anything.
It's because I shouldn't have read it.
No, you should be reading it properly.
Because I can just say it without doing it. Anyway.
Do we need to do that again?
Yeah, let's do it again.
Everyone's picking your ear.
No.